Just good afternoon from the for the early joiners. So it's Bruce Wilson here from the United Learning EdTech team. I'm just going to wait a couple more minutes for the 4:30 build start time, and that will be going. Nice to have you on the call already.
Bruce, can I suggest you start recording now before we forget?
Yeah, done that. It started, James.
Oh, wonderful. Sorry, I missed that.
No, Beth reminded me, which was a good job because I would have forgotten. So hi folks, I'll just give it one more minute just to give people the chance to kind of join. We did have quite a few sign-ups for this, but if it's a small select audience, that's fine as well. So I'll just wait one more minute and then we'll get going. I can see people joining now.
When you start, Bruce, I'll put force mute on everybody, and then when we get to the natural breaks, I'll unmute, just to make sure people don't join with microphones on.
Thank you, James. Okay, listen, it's just gone 4:30 now, so thank you to everyone that's jumped on the call. I will get going. We are going to make a recording of this webinar and make it available afterwards. So if you'd signed up but didn't get a chance to join live, that's fine. We'll make it available afterwards. So welcome to everyone that's here. My name is Bruce Wilson. I'm one of the educational technologists working with the United Learning EdTech team, and we're putting on this webinar about using Microsoft Teams to run virtual options evenings as part of the EdTech Demonstrator Programme, which I think is probably how you found out about it. Just a little bit of housekeeping before I get going on the webinar properly. I'm obliged to let you know that we are recording. That's not to check in on me, that's just so we can spread the word far and wide about these things and put the recording in our website, so hopefully people that couldn't make this slot can watch it afterwards. So I hope that's okay. I have started that already. If you could just remain on mute, we're gonna force that anyway, but if you could do that, it'd be really helpful. There will be hopefully lots of opportunities for questions either in the chat or verbally. There's some natural breaks, so we'll allow you to unmute at that point and ask some questions. And you should have access to the chat as well down the right-hand side of your screen. I've got my boss, actually, my colleague James Garnett, also on the call. You can probably see James's video. He's very knowledgeable in these areas as well, and please feel free to use the chat. And we'll try and answer those questions as we go along as well. But as I say, hopefully I don't have an hour's content. Hopefully there'll be loads and loads of time for answering all of your questions. As I say, we'll be recording and we'll make this available on our website. I can tell you where to go for the recording after the event. That will probably be up tomorrow. And just to say, this slide deck, and I'm going to refer to a couple of other bits of guidance that we've written on this topic. I've put those documents in the chat as well, so you should see the slide deck and a couple of PDFs in the chat, and those are basically the resources I'm going to be using in the next 45 minutes. So don't read them now because you'll just turn off and not listen to me, but they are there for your kind of reference later on. So welcome. Listen, it's really, really great to be able to do this. We're really, really proud as an organisation to be involved in this EdTech Demonstrator Programme. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the programme at the end, but if you like what you see and you want more help about anything really, please feel free to either engage with us on social media. Those are the handles to use, both me and our team. That's not just a plea for more followers. There is a really, really active conversation both with our team and lots of people actually all around the country that are just purely aiming to help people as we get through this pandemic. So please feel free to use that. But in addition to that, there is a dedicated inbox for our programme. And if you want to reach out and make contact, please do that as well. I will on the last couple of slides just show you, if you're not already signed up, how to formally join that program to get help from either our organisation or lots and lots of people that are helping people all around the country. This topic actually, or one of the things we're trying to do is, deal with topics as they come up. And as we were thinking about this term, this seemed to be something that was front of people's minds around about this time. So we're really, really keen on reacting quickly and solving your problems or helping you with your issues in the moment. So if there are things that are front of mind that you need an answer to tomorrow or next week, please do drop us a line, and I'll talk more at the end about how we're aiming to do that. So you're very, very welcome, and we are very, very keen to help out on this issue and beyond. Okay, so I'm going to be talking through the headlines of a paper that I wrote just before Christmas, and we sent out to our schools actually in our group, I think at the start of the term. So I've put a link to that in the slide deck. You've got the slide deck, and you've also got the PDF of that in the chat as well. If anybody's got any issues with picking stuff up or those links, just drop that email address a line, and we will make sure you've got kind of what you need. It is an internal paper. One or two of those links might point to internal websites, but most of them point to external advice. So don't worry too much if you can't click the links. That should explain kind of everything. Now, what I want to do this afternoon is just to walk through the key elements of that paper and just explain one or two finer bits of detail and one or two nuances that I think will hopefully help you to run a virtual options evening for your Key Stage 3 students going into Key Stage 4. Okay, so just to run through what I'm going to kind of talk about really. The starting point for that paper was, okay, if we were back in the real world, if there wasn't COVID, if we weren't doing things virtually, how would we kind of go about this? So and then I tried to sort of break that down into the sort of hopefully reasonably smart use of kind of various technologies. So as a starting point, if we were back in the main hall, perhaps you'd probably be starting your options evening with an opening talk of some kind, either with the head teacher or perhaps the head of Key Stage 3 or head of Year 9, something like that. So we're going to try and replicate that as a starting point. The technology I'm going to talk about briefly on that is a thing called Teams Live Events, and that's a part of Microsoft Teams. You may have used that already, you may not know about that. So that's going to be our starting point, and that's really using kind of Teams in a sort of broadcast mode. So we'll start with that, and the first half of the talk is mostly about that. We're then going to get into perhaps what you might do next on an options evening. So you're probably going to want to break out from that main hall, perhaps go to sort of subject areas in the school and get slightly smaller, perhaps more interactive presentations from the various different options. So typically what's that going to look like? It's going to look like the head of geography selling his or her subject and perhaps taking slightly more interactive questions from parents and youngsters. So I'm going to talk about that, but specifically about Teams meetings, but with one or two nuances. But we're also going to look at a backup plan for that. Lots of people, clearly with all this trouble going on, maybe unwell, not available, not comfortable with that. So we'll look at a bit of a way that you might come up with a bit of a plan B for that bit. On that evening, you might also, just to kind of mop up perhaps overall questions that are not necessarily subject specific or worries at a slightly higher level for parents and students, you might have a kind of drop-in session, a surgery, either with SMT or perhaps the head of year. Again, I'm going to look at that and how you might do that. And again, the technology we're going to touch on there is back to Teams meetings itself, with a slight difference from the level before. And then finally, if we were back in the kind of the real world, you might close off the evening, and you might do some follow-ups. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about closing talk. That bit's optional, really. But clearly, one of the things that follows an options evening is the young people actually choosing their options. So we'll just touch briefly on how you might get that information back. Many of you might have done that via paper mechanism before. That will prove difficult with the children away from school. So we'll touch briefly on Microsoft Forms for that. And then I'm sort of minded of the phrase at the moment, never underestimate the power of over communication. So we'll look at what you might do with various recordings, FAQ documents, and perhaps follow-ups on social media, and perhaps what should go on the school website. So let me just start with the opening talk. We were starting this virtual options evening with an opening talk, and I just want to flag a tool here called Teams Live Events. Now with Teams, you actually get two types of meetings. You get a call like this, which is very interactive. Okay, so I can talk. You've got my talking head. I can share slides, but with the right settings, you guys can put on your videos. You can talk. You can ask questions, and it's all very synchronous. That's not the style. That's not the style we're going to use, or I recommend for the opening talk. Principally because it's kind of trying to replicate, lots of parents in a big hall, and you want that to be sort of short and sweet. Give the key information. And really have your more interactive sessions, your questions answered in those later sessions. So for that reason, we're going to recommend not a normal Teams meeting, but a Teams Live event. Now, Teams Live event, if they're new to you, is a whole webinar in itself. So that's not my intention this afternoon. I have given you the paper that we've written on this. It's got lots of advice. It's got lots of links in it, tells you exactly how to do it. And then also on these slides, I've put another couple of links, which are more instructional videos. And then the webinar demo is a recording we made, I think last term, where we really show that in all its glory, in all its detail, and point out all the gotchas. So this is going to be a very quick overview of what it is, and some key things to point out with regard to Teams Live events. So let's look at it in summary. So the starting point is creating a Teams Live event, and you do that in exactly the same way as you would a normal Teams meeting. So I'm making some assumptions here because you've signed up for this webinar that you're either reasonably familiar with Teams, or you've certainly got availability of it. So just a couple of screenshots. When you log on to Teams, you've got your calendar down the left-hand menu there, and when you click on your calendar, you've got the option on the top right of the screen to create a new meeting. Don't click on the purple box which says new meeting, but click on the arrow next to it. And then you'll get the option to set up these two different kinds of meetings. And it's the live event one that you want, not new meeting, not schedule a meeting, but it's the live event one that you've got. Now, sometimes when you do that, that might not be there. And don't worry if that's the case. You just need to speak to your local IT admin about that. It could well be that in the back end, in the admin section of Office 365, the right license hasn't been applied. So don't worry if it's not there. Talk to your IT admin. As I say, if you need any help, drop us a line. But I think it's the A3 license you need applied. That's normally quite an easy fix. Once that's done, you should be able to create a live event. Now, I won't walk you through all of the steps. As I say, that's all in the instructions. But I wanted to point out exactly what it is and what it looks like. Now, the most important thing is what it looks like at your end. So this is not the receiving end, not the parents watching at home, but how you go about broadcasting it. And I've put a screenshot up here just to kind of talk you through the various elements of it. Now you can see this looks a little bit like a normal Teams call, those of you that are used to using it, but there's some slight differences that we just want to kind of point out and some important parts of it. So the first thing to point out is that you need a few people for this. So you know, I've got a couple of I'm doing this presentation by myself, and I've got some people watching the chat. But you really need, I think, probably 3 people to do this. You need the main presenter, and then you need what we call producers. And what producers do is 2 things. You need one to sort of manage the content, the talking heads, people who's talking, and the PowerPoint slides perhaps. And then another element of Teams live events is a Q&A, and you really need somebody else to monitor that. So this is the kind of back end screen. This is what it will look like for those presenters and producers. So let me just point out a couple of things. You've got a screen on the left there, which is almost like your green room. It's like your queue. So if somebody was talking on the right hand side and you wanted to, perhaps that was the head teacher, I don't know, talking on the right hand side, and then you wanted to hand over to somebody else, you can do that. So you can line up other presenters. So that's the box on the left hand side. And then on the right hand side, once you've pressed the start button, you've got the actual live event. So on the right hand side, you've got, you know, what your viewers, what your audience are actually seeing. They won't see the queue until you press that send live button. Now, how do you get content into those boxes? Well, what you do, let's say you wanted the presenter on the bottom left there to be next. You'd click on him, click on the queue, and then at the appropriate time, send live. And in the content section at the bottom there, you've also got the means for sharing content. And typically, that's going to be you know, a set of PowerPoint slides giving the information that you want to get over on the virtual parents evening. Okay, so the reason why we recommend more than one person is that the presenter really needs to focus on presenting and nothing else. It's really good if you've got somebody, one producer who is queuing up the slides and moving them on. As a presenter, don't be worried, just to say next slide and get that person to move them on. As I say, quite a nice element of this, a quite powerful element of this is the Q&A section. You really need somebody to kind of monitor the Q&A. Now, if I talk a little bit about the Q&A section, this can be reasonably interactive, or it can be less so, depending on your needs. So what happens at the receiver end is essentially the parents are just going to be watching this opening presentation, much like they would be sitting in the school hall at home on their devices. But they do also have the option to ask questions, not with a talking head, not with video, not with audio, but to type in a question. And that goes into this section. It goes into the Q&A. But you've got a couple of options. You can either answer those and publish them live in the moment. You can either do that or not do that. Now you might, I think, because of tightness of time, choose not to publish those. So this Teams live backend, if you like, gives you a little bit of a holding zone just to gather people's questions. So, you know, typically that talk is going to be what, 15-20 minutes, I think. That might be a bit tight on time to answer all of those questions. You don't want to time out. You really want to get onto the more interactive presentation. So I think the advice is from us, and certainly what we've done elsewhere, gather all those questions, but don't publish them. Leave them unlive, if you will, and follow them up later with a Q&A. Sorry, with an FAQ perhaps on the school website. So just to close off this section, you're going to need to communicate the link to that for parents. I won't show you how to do that. It's fairly obvious through the kind of the setup process. But that's called the attendee link, and you're going to need to send that to them. You're going to need to send that to them on an email. Okay. There's a bit of advice on various Microsoft websites about how and what type of devices they can use to do this, but basically they can use most devices, and crucially they won't need an Office 365 license. They don't need to sign in. They're basically going to click on the link, and they are going to see the following things. They're going to see a presenter. They're going to see some slides if you choose to use slides, if you're doing that, and they're going to get a Q&A. So it's basically a broadcast. There's no option for them to turn on a video and talk. There's none of that you would get from a normal Teams meeting. A few other sort of tips if you've never done this before. There is a slight delay. Now, this doesn't really matter at the moment because the chances are you guys are going to be in school or at your homes, and the parents are going to be in their homes. So, but there is a slight delay between you talking and the audience viewing. It's about 10 or 15 seconds, and obviously that's a bit dependent on local internet speed and so on and so forth. So it's not like this where I'm talking and you're getting it completely synchronously. There is a slight delay. As I say, there is this Q&A function. You do have the option to answer them and publish them, but I think if time is tight and if you want to avoid that kind of classic thing where somebody sort of hogs the question, but it's not really relevant to everybody else, it's a good idea, I think, just to capture all of those in the back end and then produce a frequently asked questions kind of document later on. Now, the other main tip I just want to give you on this is do rehearse. I think we're all kind of used to perhaps this type of Teams meeting, and you know, those of you I'm sure teaching sort of day in day out are used to sort of live lessons by now. But this is slightly different. First of all, it's not one person doing it. It's 3 people involved, right? So you've got your main presenter and probably 2 producers, and that does need a bit of rehearsing, particularly the person actually that's queuing up the content. If you've not done that before, I really recommend have a go and do a rehearsal. And whilst you're doing that, get a second screen up there and actually see what it looks like from the audience point of view. That we find that's really helpful. But when you're doing your rehearsal, don't use the actual link that you will use on the real evening. And that's because Teams live events work slightly different to a normal Teams meeting in that when you end the live event, you can't restart it. So set your proper live event up for your actual evening. Do a rehearsal, but create another meeting for that because you'll come unstuck in the meetings. Live meetings, just like normal calls, can also be recorded. Okay, and again, I won't show you that, but you've got that option, and you know, those recordings can be available to the producers and the presenters after the call, and of course you can make that available to those parents and so on that weren't able to attend on the evening. Okay, so I'm just going to pause for thought there. I can see a few things jumping in the chat, and James looks like he's answering questions and dealing with some document issues. as I say, that wasn't a complete training course in live events. It's a really, really powerful tool, which we've used in our organisation for all sorts of one-to-many presentations. It is really, really powerful. Slightly different to a main Teams meeting, needs a bit of rehearsal. Well, once you've got used to it, as I say, very, very useful for this type of thing. So let me just pause for thought.
I have unmuted everyone.
James,
I've allowed them to unmute themselves.
Unmute people, or you're welcome to, anyone on the call, welcome to pop any questions in the chat just briefly. It's a natural break in the proceedings.
Bruce, can you hear me? Bruce, can you hear me?
Any questions from anyone on the Teams live event? I'll sort of move on to the next stage.
Bruce, can you hear me?
Great. Okay. Beth, are you still hearing me?
I'm hearing you. Can you hear James? Don't think Bruce can hear
James,
us.
can you hear me? Oh, James, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sorry, I was just checking the sound there. Apologies. Were there any questions that need answering at this point?
I think I would just say, reiterate your point about practice. Having done it for 50 to 5,000 people as a producer, you want to have that confidence of having done it a couple of times, feel happy about moving people from being in the green room into or in the waiting to move to presenting, to get your presenters comfortable, because you may be lining up 2 or 3 presenters.
Sure.
And the other one is that the microphones are live, so you can't have the person presenting and everyone else having a quick chat in the background, because the rest of the world will hear that conversation.
Yeah.
But it does mean that if you want to do questions, you can have someone off camera asking a question of the head, and that can work quite well. If you think there are a couple of questions that are coming in that are particularly relevant, you know, someone's asked a question, think, oh, I didn't cover that. Yeah, I'll answer that one. So that works very well. And one of the reasons having 2 producers is that if one person has connectivity issues, the other person can take over. But there is you want to make sure whoever is producing has got a reasonable internet connection and doesn't do what I did one evening, which was turn on another laptop and have it synchronize my OneDrive and kill my presenter role, my producer role. So it's just being aware of all the things that are going on. One thing that I do as a producer is I will have a laptop sitting next to me with the live feed on it, so I've got that confidence that yes, parents are seeing what I'm producing, and that 20-second delay between you talking and the rest of the world hearing you is, so in the background it's synchronous, so all the presenters and producers hear each other in real time. And just think of your audience out there having a 20-second delay, a bit like listening to digital radio and analog radio. If you put them on at the same time, there is a bit of a delay between them. So that's the bit that, you know, might freak you out a little bit. The A3 license is important because it used to work on A1, but Microsoft removed it in the last week or 2. So if you thought it worked before Christmas, be aware that it probably doesn't work now if you've only got an A1 license. But the only person who needs an A3 license is the person creating the meetings. So you can get away with buying 1 or 2 if you haven't got it.
Great.
And I will find a way of sharing that document that basically talks through sort of weeks beforehand, the day before, doing it, and then what you need to do at the end. Because it's in the same way that you will prep and plan a presentation, or we've used it for big conferences. You know, you need to put that same effort into doing your Teams live and make sure you've rehearsed it and are happy with it. Sorry, Bruce.
That's all right. I know you're a good expert on this, so thanks for those tips. Right, well, let's move on. So you've done your first bit. That's the sort of the main event, if you will, the opening presentation. So you're then going to move on to, you know, as you would if you were back in the real school, you're going to probably leave the hall and move to a more subject-related presentations. You know, probably from heads of department, those kind of people, assistant heads of department, you know, you're gonna break out into smaller rooms, and you're going to want those conversations to be slightly more interactive. You know, those are the points where parents and young people are likely to ask the questions they really want, because it's about that subject, and you know, they're probably less nervous than they would be in the main hall. So that's the backdrop really. Now you can get quite complicated from this. I've designed the paper I talked about at the start and this presentation just to kind of keep it quite simple and free. So we're going to talk about this in terms of just how you might do that with the basic Teams meetings. But you can be more complicated. I'm not going to go into it now in any detail at all, but just to flag another webinar that we've recorded a while back, and I've put the YouTube link in the slide deck here. There is a tool, again, part of 365, called Microsoft Bookings. And if you want to sort of supercharge this, kind of get into individual bookings and you know, really be strict on the timings, Microsoft Bookings in concert with Microsoft Teams is a good way of doing it. I won't go into that now. I just wanted to flag it, and you have got that kind of YouTube link. There is also there are also some commercial companies that do this for you. Not so much the live events, but the booking of kind of meetings. And when I was putting this slide deck together and talking to some of our schools about it, it's clear that, you know, lots of schools want not just to do their Year 9 options evening, but to do their options evening and their Year 9 parents evening all on the same evening. You know, and that might need a little bit more sort of scheduling. The main company that's available to us and we know about is a company called School Cloud. Yeah, I've just seen the chat there. Some slight caveats. Now, listen, we've got no allegiances to School Cloud. I have had lots of good feedback from lots of our schools, and lots of our schools use it. That's the good bit. The caveat is, I know it's gone down the last couple of Thursdays. Thursdays seem to be really popular for parents' evenings. So I've had some really good feedback, and I've had some less good feedback. But when it's worked, it does seem to tick a lot of the boxes. I'm not sure of the cost, but anyway, I've put their link up there, and I'm sure other companies exist as well. But as I say, this is just the sort of simple free version of how you might kind of do this. So for heads of department rather, presentations, you know, we think just a normal kind of Teams meeting will be absolutely fine with this. So just a reminder, you know, you're in your Teams application, go to the calendar. This time you don't want the live events, excuse me, you want to just have a normal Teams meeting. Some things to look out for. Now, I had prepared this paper and this slide particularly before Christmas with this presentation in mind, but this is even more relevant now, I think, with the explosion of kind of live lessons all around the country. So I just wanted to point out the settings within normal Teams meetings. So when you've created your meeting, you have the option either in the call or in the calendar event to go to the meeting options. So look out for meeting options, and when you click on it, you get this thing here. Now, key to my strategy on using sort of a normal Teams meeting for this part of the evening is the use of the lobby. And the reason for that is, you know, if you were back back in school, you know, you'd probably run a cycle of, I don't know, 3 presentations for geography or 3 presentations for tech, you know, and you'd probably say, right, you know, the first 25 can come in, and then we're full, and then we'll run it for 15-20 minutes, and then we'll run it again. So I'm just trying to replicate that kind of functionality, and for that, what you really kind of need is the lobby. So for those of you that haven't used lobbies in Teams meetings, this is the kind of the holding zone by which I can be there as the main presenter and then let people in either en masse or one by one as they wait in a holding zone. So I think for this mode, you really need the lobby on. and you need that setting there. Who can bypass it and set that to only me? You also want the role there for who can present, and again, you want only you for that. And that's not just about sharing PowerPoint slides. Actually, when you choose, when you let other participants present, they can do all sorts of things like kick people out of the meeting and mute people, all that sort of stuff. And you really don't want parents doing that to kind of other parents. I'm not suggesting for a minute they would do that maliciously, but you know, people do tinker with buttons. So those are the kind of the settings that we recommend. Now, one thing I wanted to flag at this point is that we have, pivoting back to live lessons and just breaking the subject for a minute, we've done loads of work on this and we have loads of advice on this. There is worryingly becoming a bit of a trend, which is it now has a word, I'm told, called lesson bombing or Zoom bombing. Okay. Now we're more worried about this clearly with lessons rather than parents' evenings, but you know, the same security should apply to parents' evenings. So if that's something that's troubling you, if you're getting occasions like that at your school, again, drop us a line. We'd love to be able to share all of the work we've done on that, just to kind of keep lessons safe. But I think the same things apply to meetings with parents as well. I think the key thing to point out, even though parents won't need to log in with any credentials, any Office 365 credentials, is, you know, please just reinforce not to share links. That's the absolute sort of kind of starting point. So that's a few tips on the lobby. Now, again, this is a normal Teams meeting. They can be recorded. You'd probably want to do that so that you could put it on the website afterwards. But as I say, do use the lobby. Now, there are some things for the use of Teams meetings and the lobby actually that you'd probably want to check with your IT admin. There's a couple of back-end settings that you really need open, and those are called guest access and anonymous access or anonymous users. And you really need those on. And what that will mean is that parents can either log in with any Microsoft account. Could be they've got a work Microsoft account or a private sort of Outlook.com account, what used to be called Hotmail, or indeed just join anonymously without an account. So if those things are not enabled, then you're going to struggle. So it could be, in the context of your schools, that your local IT admin, for very justifiable reasons, have got those disabled. You know, they would be sort of heavily locked down. We haven't actually in our organisation, but just check on those things with local IT admin. You'd want to avoid sharing links with parents and then not getting in. Now, there are some risks with that. I've alluded to it. It's sort of you know, meeting bombing or Zoom bombing, if you will. But it does come with some advantages. Okay, and it does. The main advantage clearly is you can use a free Teams meeting to do this kind of thing. You know, it's got live chat. You can have parents speaking on camera and asking questions. But it also will give you this kind of lobby functionality, so you can you can control the numbers in each presentation. So what I suggest you do is offer 2 or 3 of these kind of things rolling kind of back to back, and use that functionality just to kind of let the same numbers of people in that you would do if it was in that geography classroom in the real world. I think the other thing that the lobby functionality will allow you to do is be quite tight on the start and finish times. You've got to achieve quite a lot on this evening. You know, you've got to do the opening thing. You've got to let people answer their questions. You've got to get over lots of information, subject by subject, and so on and so forth. So you need to be kind of quite tight on time, start and finish. So, and again, the lobby will allow you to do that. Okay, so so I think this is all going to need a bit of sort of careful communication to parents, because the likelihood is they're going to be attending some different meetings. The first one is sort of the opening presentation with its link, and then perhaps they're going to attend, I don't know, a technology meeting, a humanities meeting, and so on and so forth. And they're all going to have different kind of links. Now, I think that's fine. It can work, but it will need some careful communication. So I'll leave, as I say, you've got this slide deck. You can use this as perhaps a template document. This could all be summarised perhaps in one document, and you know, you'd add in a bit of detail, perhaps, you know, who the technology teacher is going to be, what times, and then each of those calls will have individual call links which you can drop into that document as a hyperlink. So although parents have got to be in a few calls and drop in and out, and staff have got to use the lobby, I think this is workable, and I will point out it's free, but you will need to carefully communicate that. Maybe a document like that with just all of the times, a summary, and all of the links into it. Now, let's move on to the sort of the middle part. I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the next bit. So, you know, you've done your opening presentation now, that broadcast. You've given parents a chance to carousel through various option subject talks. All of that's recorded. You know, there may be some parents that want to have a broader conversation with perhaps the head of year, or perhaps someone from SLT. Certainly the school I spoke to, one of our schools in Northampton, when I was prepping this deck, that, you know, they said that because they have their parents' evening and their options evening all in one go, that they, you know, they just have a number of SLT available to take questions. Now, normally they just have them in the hall, and parents would kind of line up. They'd have a quick surgery, and it would be rolling like that. So I'm just trying to recreate that with Teams. So let's talk about that in a second. Just to say, by the way, but briefly back to the subject presentations. If you're struggling with people not being available or not feeling comfortable with the technology, I mean, I think the key thing is that you get over the key information, and that you know, a knowledgeable teacher or head of department presents that. So a fallback plan, if you're not comfortable with Teams, is actually to record that before. And we did a lot of this actually in the first lockdown, where we weren't quite so synchronous with our lessons. But PowerPoint has a wonderful feature, if you're not used to it, whereby you can have a talking head, just like I'm doing now, over kind of PowerPoint. It's called Voice over PowerPoint. So I'm not going to do any more now than just flag that as a bit of a fallback plan if you've got members of staff not available or not comfortable with the Teams meeting approach. You know, Voice over PowerPoint is really, really powerful. The link there about how to do it is really simple, is in the screen. So let's go back and just look at that last SMT meeting. Now, I think this is possibly best arranged in advance. So just so you've got an idea of how many meetings those SLT have got to do. So an idea perhaps to do that is just have create another inbox, you know, options evening at, just for this evening, just to say that there will be an option to talk to SLT outside of the main subject meetings, but would you like to kind of book a slot? And I think that's just really simply done, as I say, by email beforehand, and you know, tell parents that you just like to know. Now, again, this is just going to be handled with normal Teams meetings. So if you go back to my my template sheet there, what the idea is, you just have maybe 3 members of SLT, but just one call. You don't have to schedule 3 calls or 1 call per parent. You can just have 1 call open, one call open per SMT, and again, use the lobby to let people in and out. So this is using the lobby in a slightly different way. Now, the reason for having the email is that let's say you've got, I don't know, 30 members of Year 9 parents want to book a surgery. You can know that in advance, and then you can allocate, you know, perhaps Mr. Wilson to particular members of SLT, and give them the particular link for that and the time. The way it will work for SMT is, again, use the lobby, but rather than the last example where you're kind of letting lots of people in and then doing a presentation and finishing, the way this would work is this is a much more intimate kind of one-to-one, 1-to-2 kind of meeting, whereby you you kind of let the first person in, answer their questions, let them leave, or even press the cross and admit them themselves, and then let the next person in. So it's much more like that kind of queuing system in a hall, where SMT are just answering questions, letting people in, letting them go, and then on to the next one. And I think that will work absolutely fine. You're going to need to educate people how to use the lobby and so on and so forth. But you know, that's a way of doing it, as I say, without the complexities of other systems or the cost of other systems and so on and so forth. But you will need to carefully communicate that that's what you're going to do. Right in the early days of lockdown, before this went on for longer and longer, you know, we were in some primary schools, that's how we were running some parents' evenings. And I think as long as parents are comfortable, as long as staff are trained, you know, that can work perfectly well. So let's just crack on because of time. Right, just the finishing bit. Excuse me. So yeah, if we were back in the actual school, you might, depending on how the first sort of broadcast goes, you might want to have a one final kind of mass gathering with kind of everyone. So again, there are no differences with that. Again, you could do that with a Teams live event. I think there's pros and cons of that, to be honest. I think if it was me, I think I'd just do one Teams live event and just cover everything, including how you will follow up questions in that sort of first call. I think you know, the risk being that it's just another thing to do, another call to go to, another link to communicate. But you could do that. But either way, you'd probably want to explain the decision-making process over choosing the options. Now, you might in your school have a historical way of getting options forms back. You know, maybe that's paper. And that might prove difficult at the moment. That might prove too long. So, you know, a potential way of doing that is to digitalize that. I just want to flag that Office 365 has a built-in questionnaire tool. It's called Microsoft Forms. Again, we could do a whole other webinar on that. I've put a link into the slide deck, but think online questionnaire. You can send that out by link to parents after this evening. They can fill in the options that they want for their young people, or potentially even follow-up questions, and that can go back. They can do that online, in a browser, on mobile. It's a really, really powerful tool if you're looking for ways to reproduce how you would get feedback from this evening in a digital form rather than using kind of paper. All through the evening, there would have been lots of questioning, I think, both from the live event at the start and potentially through those kind of subject presentations and surgeries as well. So hopefully a lot of those will be covered in the evening, but you probably want to capture those questions and produce some kind of FAQ, frequently asked questions document at the end. And you probably want to sort of point parents towards the school website, which is going to have all this information and all the recording from all of those kind of sessions. That'd be a nice thing to do, I think, as a kind of follow-up. Now, whether you do that in one final optional live event or preload that at the start, I'm not sure it kind of matters really. There are kind of pros and cons, but you've got the option of doing that, and that would just be another Teams live event, but it must be another one because you would have closed down the first one. And as I say, using Microsoft Forms as a questionnaire tool. Now this bit I don't think is any different to sort of non-COVID times really, but it probably is more important now, I think. So you're probably going to want to follow up that evening with basically, I think, all of that digital content up on the website and communicate to parents that it has gone on the website. So, you know, as I say, those live events, those subject talks can all be recorded or pre-recorded using voice over PowerPoint. What we typically do is have a YouTube channel and then stream that onto the website or upload that to the website. And as I say, really good idea to have all of those kind of frequently asked questions on the website as well. So just as a follow-up, we think that would be kind of good advice. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up now, and James and I will happily stay on for 10 minutes or so to take any final questions. But I hope you found that kind of useful. All of that content, including the recording from this webinar, we will get up on the website. I think we've got all of your email addresses, so we can get all of that to you. If that's been helpful and you want more of that kind of thing, I can't shout loudly enough about the EdTech Demonstrator Programme. You are very, very welcome to request United Learning Services. I'm part of a very, very big team that can help out. But equally, there are lots and lots of schools all around the country that have historically done great things with EdTech and I just want to do peer-to-peer support, really. So the top link in this slide deck is where you get more information about that and how you kind of sign up. If you want to, if you like what you've seen today, you like our organisation, there's a point of the sign up form where you actually have to choose who you work with. So right down at the bottom is United Learning. We'd be really, really happy to help you out and to work with you. The other two links are a bit more information about not United Learning, but how United Learning are playing a part in this program. So one is the EdTech website itself, and then the last one there is just our website. The main reason I put that last link on there is that we are posting a hell of a lot of resources, if not daily, but certainly weekly, about all the stuff that we're doing. So even if you're not formally part of the program, there are loads and loads of free resources on that website as well. But we'd love to have you part of the program if that's going to be helpful to your school and your context. And then just finally, as I said at the opening, we're really, really keen on helping schools in the moment, really. So you know, rather than come up with an idea and book a webinar in or you know, some things that take a lot of time necessarily, we're also running drop-in sessions. We're going to do a few of these sort of weekly, whereby it's less of us talking and giving tips and more of you know, the audience asking questions. So a little bit more of a surgery approach, and the first of those is sort of coming out quite soon on the 4th of February. Again, I've just wanted to plug that. You can join up for those in the same way as you join up for these. So there's the link in the slides there, but do check out our website, and I think we're doing several of those. And that's yeah, as I say, that's designed to, you know, just nip in the bud those questions that you might have in the moment, and hopefully we can answer things at a bit more pace.
Bruce, I've put a comment in the message section where, you know, if people are using bookings, particularly if they've got externals coming in, you know, if you're looking at sixth form options, then bookings will give you a list of all those people who want to have a, you know, go and see the maths session or go and see the other sessions. So you can collect that information and then email out to them afterwards in terms of that sort of marketing piece. Yeah. But even for your 7 options, you know, your 7 open evenings, if you want to book people in to see departments, it just gives you a bit of information that you may struggle to collect because you haven't got people, you know, coming in and signing bits of paper or giving you information when they turn up. So it's another way of accessing them.
Yeah, really good, James. Yeah, so that's the, just to be clear on that, that's the Microsoft bookings thing that I've only really alluded to and touched on very briefly today, but it can elevate both this and parents' evenings to the next level. Gives you everything that James has talked about there, and also a lot of scheduling functionality if you wanted to add that kind of veneer. As I say, there is a link on that slide where I think it's you demonstrated that, James, didn't you? You did a whole talk.
I did.
Yeah, so you'll get a real expert talking to you kind of about that.
And I dropped the link into the chat as well if people wanted to click on that. So
great stuff. Okay. Well, listen, I'll finish there. James and I are happy to stay on for you know, up till half past 5. But listen, can I thank you for attending? I hope you found that helpful. Much of that is just my ideas in combination with a school I spoke to. So it's not, this is how you have to do it, but you know, feel free to sort of tweak some of those ideas and let us know how you get on. Please do make contact via that email address that I flagged at the start, and or on social media. You know, we are as I said at the start, very, very happy to help other colleagues, particularly in the circumstances we found ourselves in at the moment. So thank you for joining. Enjoy your evening, and you're welcome to go. But happy to stay on with James and answer any questions either on the chat, or if you'd like to turn videos on and mics on, we're happy to have a chat with you as well. Thanks very much. Thanks, James.
No problem, Bruce. It's good. I see you'd already put my Teams live bit in there as well. So I was trying to share a document that's already shared, but they can't see the file section in the meeting, I don't think, Bruce.
Oh, can they not?
No, I don't think so. I'm just going to have a quick look if I come in anonymously. I thought you could see it.
In the chat, you mean?
Yeah, because it puts into files in the team meeting.
I see. Okay. That's my
I think you need to be in the team to get it.
Yeah.
You need to download the attendance, Bruce, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Mike, are you not going to heckle me?
Well, I was going to, but then I thought, no, it was quite useful, so I won't say anything. Yet.
You're very kind, sir. You're very kind.
See, I've moved to the front of the classroom now from the back.
Was that helpful?
It was brilliant stuff, yeah.
All right, good. Well, feel free to use and abuse. James, I know Mike from St Albans through various means. James is my boss, so feel free to say nice things about me.
Oh, hang on, I'll have to have a think then.
Yes. I have an old ex-teaching colleague who turns up every so often in my sessions, so it's always nice to have a friendly face on the call.
Yeah. Any feedback, Mike? Would that work, do you think?
Yeah. I mean, what it will, from my point of view, being sort of a fairly useless at technology, it will just take speaking to some of the people here, basically to see if they've got a clue about all the things you've been talking about, so we can get it up and running. But the theories and the concepts and the way you've gone through it would be absolutely fantastic, because it's exactly the same as running it in the halls. It just, obviously everyone's at home, with the first presentation, then you go off and see your subject presentations. As you said, you would have people from SLT around, for those conversations, etc.
Yeah.
And then getting everything on Microsoft on the forms will just save hours of work, so that you then just download that into Excel. Rather than have to go through, in our case, 250 forms. To transfer everything into the file. So no, I think our evening is the 11th of March.
You got a bit of time then?
Yeah, so I've got a little bit of time to sort of try and work it out, or, as I say, get people who are a bit better at using this than me. To get it started. But yeah, it looks brilliant.
Well, if they need, honestly, mate, if they need more help, just I know I was a bit flippant on my last email, but just sign up. This program, it doesn't need to be like very formal 6 weeks. It doesn't need to be that. If you just need a wee bit of help with this in particular, then we can do it. The sign up doesn't take very long at all.
Right, brilliant.
And it is totally free. It's nothing, no obligation.
Yeah, I've still obviously got the email here. I'll have a look at that later and get that done. Yeah. I think I'm just going to run away in case I get locked in the school in a minute. All
right. Take care. Have a nice evening.
Yeah, you out on the weekend on the bike?
I will be. I might run twice, actually. I think there's a bit more snow coming, so I might.
Yeah, I saw,
Yeah.
Happy days.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll let you get off in case there's any questions from people.
Yeah, take care.
Thanks a lot. Brilliant stuff, Bruce.
Cheers. Take care.
Bye.
Hi, Cameron. I've picked up your question around the trust managing the back end. A lot of it is around, one, do they allow guests in? So if they've blocked guests because of the team bombing issues or whatever, or meeting interference, then you are going to struggle. You won't get parents in because it will just stop them straight off. You need to have bookings enabled, but only for the member of staff who's setting it up. And that cabin admin person doesn't have to be, and they can do it for everybody. Which is nice and straightforward. And Teams Live needs to be enabled for the specific people who need it, and that's generally just the person creating the meeting, but I would do it for the producers particularly. And you also need to enable that externals are allowed to join meetings, and often that's turned off. So when you go and set up a Teams Live event, you see you can only do it for internal people. The reason why you can't do it for people outside your organization is because they haven't turned it on in the back end system, and that needs to be turned on.
Okay, so we'll need to talk to the trust admins then, because I work in the IT department. So, but we don't have that kind of access because obviously it messes with the whole trust.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are currently 86 tenancies. And looking at merging them, and that's one of the challenges is when you bring them all together, you have this challenge of everyone. One change affects everybody. You can do some things for specific people though, so some bits can be specific, but it's not easy. How big a trust are you?
We're the Red Hill Academy Trust. I'm not entirely sure because I only joined 4th of January.
Yeah, but you're quite a few schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's they may not need any support, and just from an education side of things, if it's saying that people are interested in you, then do flag it.